welcome to Simpler Bible, a daily journey to biblical understanding. Today, for episode 80, we are going to be in 1 Samuel 21 and 22. We're going to jump over to a couple of Psalms, and we're going to talk about David and Doeg. There are a couple of things here that are very important and have New Testament implications as well. And so, begin with me in 1 Samuel 21, 1. Then David came to Nob to Ahimelech the priest. Remember, David is fleeing Saul. Saul's ready to kill him. Jonathan's just said, "You need to go. My dad's trying to kill you." Ahimelech came to meet David trembling and said to him, "Why are you alone? Why is no one with you?" David said to Ahimelech the priest, "The king has charged me," this is not noble of David, he's going to lie here. "The king has charged me with the matter and said to me, 'Let no one know anything of the matter about which I send you and with which I have charged you. I have made an appointment with the young men for such and such a place.'" So David says, "I'm by myself today because it's an urgent matter. The king I'm telling the guys are going to meet me down the road a little bit. I'm just stopping here to get a blessing from the priest," or whatever, right? Verse 3, "Now then, what do you have on hand?" This is David talking. "Give me 5 loaves of bread or whatever is here." The priest answered David, "I have no common bread on hand. There is only the holy bread if the young men have kept themselves from women." David answered the priest and said, "Truly, women have been kept from us as always when I go on an expedition. The vessels of the young men are holy, even when it's an ordinary journey. How much more today will their vessels be holy?" Again, David is lying here, right? This is not great character of King David. So verse 6, "So the priest gave him the holy bread, for there was no bread there but the bread of the presence, which is removed from before the Lord to be replaced by hot bread on the day that it's taken away." Now, this bread of the presence, the table of showbread, we talked about that a little bit back in Exodus with the building of the tabernacle. This bread was for the priest. No one else was supposed to eat it. And they would put out fresh bread each day. And the next day when they put out the fresh bread, the day-old bread would be sustenance for the priest, along with the sacrifices. This is mentioned in Matthew 12, 1 through 8. And in Matthew 12, Jesus and his disciples are going through the grain fields, and the disciples are eating the grain of the grain fields, and the Pharisees are going, "Hey, why are these guys breaking the Sabbath?" And Jesus says to them, "Did you not hear what David did and how he ate the bread that was only available for the priest to eat?" And so he makes this point that, like, you didn't charge David with guilt when he did this. And he goes, now these people, these are following me. And so Jesus references it. We don't have time to go into all that. I'll come back to it when we get into Matthew. Okay, I promise I'll come back to it. Now, David is in front of the priest. He's asking for some bread. He's like, "I'm going on a journey." Look at verse 7. "Now a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before the Lord." That's an interesting point to note. "His name was Doeg the Edomite, the chief of Saul's herdsmen. And David said to Ahimelech, Then have you not here a spear or a sword at hand? For I have brought neither my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste." And the priest said, "The sword of Goliath, the Philistine whom you struck down in the valley of Elah, behold, it is here wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you will take that, take it, for there is none but it here." David says, "Give it to me, there's none like it." And David arose and fled that day from Saul and went to Achish, the king of Gath. This guy's going to come up again in a couple of days, so keep him in your head. "The servants of Achish said to him, 'Is this not David, the king of the land? Did they not sing to one another of him in dances? Saul has struck down his thousands and David his 10,000s. So Achish is the king of Gath. Achish is a Philistine. At this point, it's not like there's one king over the Philistines. There are various kings over various Philistine cities. This is Achish, one of the lords of the Philistines, over the city of Gath, which we see has returned to the Philistines, has returned to the Philistines from the Jews yet again. And they said, "Look, why are you letting this guy and his men live here? This is the one who is famous for killing the Philistines. Why are you letting him live here?" And when David hears that, he's like, "Oh man, they're going to try to kill me." So look at what it says. Verse 12, "David took these words to heart and was much afraid of Achish, the king of Gath. So he changed his behavior before them and pretended to be insane in their hands and drew marks on the doors and gates and let his spittle run down his beard." Maybe you've not heard this. So far in this chapter, David not looking great, not looking very noble. So when he hears the people say, "Why did you bring David here? Why are you allowing David here? He's going to kill us all." David starts acting like a lunatic, making marks on doors and gates and drooling down himself. Achish said to his servants, "Behold, you see that the man is crazy. Why have you brought him to me? Do I lack madmen that you brought this fellow to behave like a madman in my presence? Shall this fellow come into my house?" Psalm 34 is the psalm that David writes as he is leaving Gath, right after he's pretended to be crazy in front of Achish. And so right after that happens, David writes this psalm. Does David have a notebook with him, a scroll with him? How is he always ready to write a poem or whatever. I don't know. Okay, so he writes this psalm. I will bless the Lord at all times. His praise will continually be in my mouth. My soul makes its boast in the Lord. Let the humble hear and be glad. Magnify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he answered me and delivered me from all of my fears. And so, beautiful, beautiful psalm. He says this in verse 7, the angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and delivers him. Oh, taste and see that the Lord is good. Blessed is the man who takes refuge in him. This is David talking about fleeing Saul and now fleeing Gath, and he is taking refuge in God. Oh, fear the Lord, you his saints, for those who fear him have no lack. The young lions suffer want and hunger, but those who seek the Lord lack no good thing. I love this too. He says down here in verse 15, the eyes of the Lord are towards the righteous, and he hears their cry. The face of the Lord is against those who do evil, to cut off the memory of them from the earth. When the righteous cry for help, the Lord hears and delivers them out of all their troubles. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted, and he saves those who are crushed in spirit. Fantastic verse to memorize. It's a true statement that God is near to the brokenhearted, saves those who are crushed in spirit. It is made more poignant by the fact that yesterday David fled his own home, that yesterday David fled King Saul, that he's been hiding out, that he's been running away, that he's in danger of his life, right? Not literally yesterday, but in like last week, right? And now he has no home anymore. He's been dispossessed from his people. And so God is near to the brokenhearted. And he goes on to say in verse 19, many are the afflictions of the righteous, but the Lord delivers him out of them all. He keeps all of his bones, not one of them is broken. So that's a reference that David is making to himself, but it's also quoted in relationship to Jesus in John 19:36. Not one of Jesus' bones were broken on the cross, but the two thieves on either side of Jesus had their legs broken to accelerate their death. And when they came to break Jesus' legs, they saw that he had already died. And it says this was to fulfill that all of his bones were intact. Not one of them was broken, which is a quote from right here. So he writes this psalm, and David departs from Gath and he flees. And now we're back in 1 Samuel 22. And he hides out in a cave. All right. So he's hiding in a cave, and it says everybody who is in distress and everybody who was anxious and everybody who was fearful came to him, everybody who was bitter in soul. And he gathers about 400 men to him. So at this point, he has 400 guys with him. And he says to the king of Moab, please let my father and my mother stay with you until I know what the Lord will do with me. So he left his mom and dad with the king of Moab. And then verse 5, the prophet Gad, he's an important player in the book of Samuel. In fact, well, we're not there yet. I'll tell you, I'll come back to Gad later, okay? The prophet Gad said to David, do not remain in the stronghold, depart and go into the land of Judah. And David departed and went into the forest of Hereth. Now, this is very, very important what's about to happen. And I'll show you why. See, I don't need to do that. I could have just kept going. Here we are. Verse 6, okay? Now Saul heard that David was discovered, and that the men who were with him, and Saul was sitting at Gibeah, that's where he's from, under the tamarisk tree on the height with his spear in his hand, of course, and all of his servants were standing about him. And Saul said to his servants who stood with him, hear now, you people of Benjamin, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards? Will he make you commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds? Remember, Saul is of Benjamin. So he's basically saying, why do you want to follow this man from Judah? He goes, we're the kings, we're the people of Benjamin. He goes, have all of you conspired against me? No one discloses to me when my own son makes a covenant with the son of Jesse. None of you is sorry for me or discloses to me that my son has stirred up my servant against me to lie in wait as it is this day. Then answered Doeg the Edomite. Remember, Doeg the Edomite was at the tent of meeting when David met with the priest. Saul's chief herdsman saw David get the sword and the bread and flee. And so Doeg the Edomite says, I saw the son of Jesse coming to Nob, to Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub. And he, that's the priest, inquired of the Lord for him and gave him food and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine. So the king sent and summoned Ahimelech, the priest, the son of Ahitub, all of his father's household, all of the priests who were there at Nob, and all of them came to the king. And Saul said, hear now, you son of Ahitub. And he said, here I am, my lord. And Saul said to him, why have you conspired against me, you and that son of Jesse, and that you have given him bread and a sword, and even inquired of God for him, so that he has risen against me to lie in wait as it is this day? Ahimelech the priest answered the king, who among all your servants is so faithful as David, who is the king's son-in-law, captain over your own bodyguard, and honored in all your house? Is today the first time that I have inquired of God for him? No, let not the king impute anything to his servant or to all the house of my father, for your servant has known nothing of this, much or little. And the king said, you will surely die. Saul is saying this to the priest of God. You will surely die, Ahimelech, you and your father's house. And the king said to the guard who stood around him, turn and kill all the priests of the Lord, because their hand is with David. And they knew that he fled, and they didn't tell me. But the servants of the king would not put out their hand to strike the priests of the Lord. So then the king said to Doeg, remember Doeg is the chief of his herds, you turn and strike down the priest. And Doeg the Edomite turned and struck down the priest and killed on that day 85 persons who wore the linen ephod. They kill all the priests except one. And Nob, the city of the priest, he put to the sword both man and woman, child and infant, ox, donkey, and sheep he put to the sword. But one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar, escaped and fled after David. All right, one son escapes. Abiathar told David that Saul had killed all the priests of the Lord, and David said to Abiathar, I knew on the day when Doeg the Edomite was there that he would surely tell Saul, I have caused the death of all the persons of your father's household. Now, it's been a while, so you might not remember this, but back in the beginning of 1 Samuel, all right, it hasn't been super long, but in the beginning of 1 Samuel, we met Eli, and Eli had these two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, and Eli the priest and his sons were wicked in the sight of the Lord. And God came to Eli in 1 Samuel 2, and he says, and he goes, look, you didn't restrain your sons from being wicked. They're sleeping with temple prostitutes. They're stealing and dishonoring the offering. He goes, I'm going to put your sons to death on one day, and I'm going to destroy your family line. Now, Ichabod, the grandson of Eli, was born on the day that Eli and his two sons died. Ichabod was born, the son of Phinehas. And Ichabod wasn't alone. Ichabod had a brother as well that was still alive. And so what's interesting is this priest, Abiathar, the one priest that survives this slaughter, is a direct descendant of Eli. And here's the way the lineage goes. You have Eli, whose son was Phinehas, whose son was Ichabod, whose son was Ahitub, whose son was Ahimelech, whose son was Abiathar. And so this is a direct descendant. Now remember, what was God's word? What was God's word to Eli? I'm going to destroy all of your offspring. And we thought that had happened the day his two sons died, but Ichabod was born, and we saw later that Ichabod had an older brother. Those two were still alive. And so God said, I'm going to destroy all your offspring, and the one that I leave alive, I'll leave to grieve out his eyes for all of his kinsmen. This is the one. This is the one that God left alive, Abiathar. And I promise you we're going to come back to this, but I can prove when we get into 2 Samuel that Abiathar is the last one of the line of Eli, but we're just not quite there yet. But this has to be connected back in our mind, back to the previous chapter. So David says to Abiathar, stay with me, don't be afraid, for the one who is seeking my life is seeking yours as well. You shall be with me in safe keeping. So this is Abiathar, who is now serving David. And then this is the psalm that David wrote, Psalm 52. On the day, so it probably should be earlier in our today's text, but this is the psalm he wrote the day that he saw Doeg the Edomite. And so he says this, this is about Doeg, keep that in mind, Psalm 52. Why do you boast of evil, O mighty man? The steadfast love of God endures all day. Your tongue plots destruction like a sharp razor. You are a worker of deceit. You love evil more than good and lying more than speaking what is right. You love all the words that devour you, deceitful tongue, but God will break you down forever. He will snatch and tear you up from your tent. He will uproot you from the land of the living. The righteous shall see and fear and laugh at him, saying, see the man who would not, this is about Doeg, see the man who would not make God his refuge, but trusted in the abundance of his riches and sought refuge in his own destruction. And then David says of himself, but I am like a green olive tree in the house of God. I trust in the steadfast love of God forever and ever. I will thank you forever because you have done it. I will wait for your name, for it is good in the presence of the godly. And so he has some harsh words for Doeg the Edomite, and he recorded them for us, so we have them. I think back, well, never mind. That's a side note we don't need to go on to today. But join me tomorrow in 1 Samuel 23 and 24, and we'll continue David fleeing from Saul. We'll see you then. Thank you so much for journeying with us today at Simpler Bible. Together, you and I have looked at another passage of Scripture and come to know the Bible a little bit better and enjoy God more fully. This video, along with all of our videos, can be found at simplerbible.com, where you can enjoy our Through the Bible in a Year course. You can also enjoy a wealth of resources, blog posts that take you a little bit deeper into the text, a Bible study format that you can use with your small groups or your family, and we're creating new content all the time, all with the commitment to help us be people who know and enjoy God more fully. Thank you so much for being part of it, and we can't wait to see you next time.